So going into Superman, I had a weird mix of emotions. I was hyped. This is the start of the new DCU. But at the same time, this is the start of the new DCU. There's a lot riding on this movie. So the real question is, would it be great? The answer? 100%. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ada Geeks, and today we're breaking down Superman. First of all, yes, team-ups are a massive part of this movie and definitely one of the things that I love about it. But that said, what impressed me the most was how none of that took away from making this a Superman story. Yes, I just said that it worked as the beginning of something greater, but it is fundamentally a Superman story, and the visuals for this movie were phenomenal. The kaiju is just a testament to how far we've come with graphics. It is so perfect. Every shot feels big and cinematic when it needs to, and tight and focused for more intimate scenes. The pacing is smooth. There are no lulls, and no weird hiccups or side stories deterring you from the actual plot that's going on. Like, there's no moment where you're in there and you're going, all right, when's the next big thing about to happen? There's just always something happening that's driving the story, the characters, everything forward. And Superman himself, this version absolutely feels new, but definitely still canon. David Corenswet nails Superman, and he doesn't just nail Superman, but he nails Clark. And he does a great job making both feel different while still being obviously the same person. And this version of Superman still feels like Superman. Yes, a younger Superman, a little bit more naive and arrogant, but he's definitely still Superman, and he is good above all else. And yes, he absolutely bleeds, and I love it. It's always really great when you can bring Superman down to earth and give him stakes. That's why the version in the comics that I love so much of Superman is when he has a family to protect. It ups the stakes. And in this case, being a 30-year-old, yes, 30, I don't know why everybody's saying 25 online. The intro clearly was 3333. Every number had a 3. It was 30. Anyways, he definitely feels 25. Maybe that's why. Speaking of that moment, that opening, perfection. It does a great job of informing people about the universe that is to come while still keeping it focused on Superman 100%. In this movie, Superman's powerful, but he's not a god, or at least not yet. And that brings me to my next topic, power balance. Leading up to the movie, James Gunn talked a lot about making Superman feel powerful, but not overpowered, right? He didn't want to feel like Green Lantern couldn't get into a realistic fight with him with some stakes. That balance absolutely shows, and it makes the story even better. It makes the stakes even higher. Sure, as I mentioned, he bleeds, but with a little bit of concentrated sunlight, right back to it, right? Which is true to Superman, but at the same time shows that, you know, he's maybe not as good of a fighter, not as good at aerial combat, not as good at a bunch of other things, or maybe that he's going up against Lex, who has treated him like a video game and has all of his combos down. To me, this balance sets up a lot more interesting storylines in the future, and I'm excited to see him not just breeze through everything that comes his way. Alright, let's talk about the world building. As I said at the beginning, you get the dump of information that metahumans have been around for 300 years already, which is a lot. So this presents an awesome opportunity not only to do things in the present or do something really cool like Batman Beyond in the future, but also go into the past and maybe see the beginning of the first metahuman to arrive on Earth or whatever happened during those 300 years that they've been around. And I really love the Hammer of Bavaria. I mean, obviously it's not just the Hammer of Bavaria. There's more inside, as we'll get to a bit later. But the suit itself is what I wanted to focus on, because that's obviously not just a Hammer of Bavaria suit. That's, you know, Lex's suit V1. And if you don't know, that's what a suit looks like in the comics. Really smart setup. Let's talk about Krypton. I was pumped to see Bradley Cooper as Jor-El. I mean, that just makes me want to see the fall of Krypton or something like that. But that got me thinking, maybe Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is based off of Tom King's graphic novel with the same title, is going to go into it. Because it is very much about the PTSD that she feels, as you saw in Superman, her being an alcoholic, by frequently going to other planets and getting tanked. And if you still don't know what I'm talking about, you might not know that she actually left Krypton when she was a little bit older already, and so she actually has memory of Krypton, which is the difference between her and Clark. And by the sounds of the second part of the recording, you gotta ask, what was that world actually like? Alright, let's get into Ultraman, because that twist definitely caught me off guard. Instead of the usual Earth 3 version that comic book fans love, what we got was something simpler but still interesting. A straight up clone of Superman. Now, there's been a few clones of Superman in the past, right? So where are we leaning with this one? Well, there's a few options here. If there's any sort of Lex in that DNA, then we might be going for a future Superboy. But honestly, he was the same age as Clark, so having a Superboy and a Superman that are the same age probably doesn't work. So there's another one, though, that might be spot on, and that is Bizarro. So is it possible that this Ultraman ends up actually becoming Bizarro in the near future? Maybe. He is a little bit slower than Superman. It didn't exactly go as planned in the cloning process. That is pretty close to one of the origin stories for Bizarro anyways. In that origin story, Lex clones Superman with a cloning ray, and he is, not perfect. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Justice Gang. Green Lantern, A1. Super awkward, super douchebaggy. Awkward in aesthetic, I should say. Douchebaggy in character, but cool nonetheless. The balance of their team works really well between Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Guy Gardner as Green Lantern. It works really, really well, and it's a fun little element in the movie a lot of the times. But then, especially while Clark Superman is in the pocket dimension, it becomes extremely important because it allows the story to stay just as entertaining as it was, allows them to get to where they need to without anybody second guessing it, or Lois, because it's Lois after all, she's just human, the Daily Planet, they're all just a bunch of normies. So they really needed that extra element to kind of fill that gap and show that Superman isn't alone in this world. There are other people out there helping him, which is, if you've ever seen any sort of animation around Superman, very much the case. So altogether, the Justice Gang does a great job of keeping the story moving, introducing new and incredible characters, bringing a solid amount of comic relief, but then also fundamentally matter to the story as well. Never taking too much of the attention away from Superman or the story itself, but only complimenting it. And speaking of the Justice Gang, Mr. Terrific is hands down one of the best parts of this movie. He is calm, cool, collected, but he still has personality. He doesn't feel like just some robot. Like, he feels like the version that I first encountered myself in Future's End. Great to see that version in a movie. I did not like the CW version. I got used to it, kinda, but that wasn't Mr. Terrific. This is. And speaking of scene stealers, I cannot avoid Crypto. What a perfect addition to this movie. He provides so much comic relief. I have a dog that's very similar to Crypto, so for me it was very personal. Every time I saw Crypto jumping on Superman's broken body, that felt spot on. And I think the way that they used them across the movie was both not too over the top, because I feel like there's a version of the movie that could have included way too much Crypto, but fundamentally every moment with him felt like it fit and felt like it was either needed or a pleasant addition. Something that I really, really loved about the movie, outside of, just Superman in general, the Justice Gang, all the things that I've already mentioned, is Lex Luthor. He was probably the one that I was the most iffy on throughout. Not in a bad way necessarily, but just this does feel like a different version of Lex. But he's not exactly a supervillain yet, which is what I loved about it in the end. Because by the time I got to the end of the movie, I realized, oh, this is where he goes from still very, very evil with pocket dimensions, not a good guy, definitely a bad guy, but I think this is the turning point where he becomes supervillain Lex Luthor, which I'm excited to see what that looks like, because this man unhinged, that's going to be something to watch. So shout out to Nicholas Hoult, because I think he did a phenomenal job. All right, so two things that I just want to nitpick at, because there's obviously some things that weren't perfect in this movie for me, and I think it does a disservice if I don't bring it up. I don't talk about anything that I don't like. If you see any video on this channel, it's because I am interested in it, so you always know that it's going to be something that I am a fan of. But that doesn't mean that I am not going to also provide some critiques on it. So speaking of, in this movie, I think that the ice breath pushing off of the black hole was a little much for me, honestly. Like, I especially in a movie that focused so much on the fact that Superman was a bit more grounded, wasn't as OP as he has been in previous iterations and things like that. I thought that showing Metamorpho, by the way, Metamorpho, amazing, forgot to add him into this, but just side note, shout out, incredible addition to the movie, and honestly imperative to making that pocket dimension work. But yeah, after he literally turns his body into a jet and can't pull them out, Superman uses ice breath? Huh? I don't get it. But anyways, whatever. I don't care. Is it a deal breaker for me? Absolutely not. This is a comic book movie. Come on. But I'm just saying, in a movie that really made him feel so grounded, it was weird to see him then use ice breath to get out of that situation. And that was one of a few situations where he was actually in peril, so it would have been nice to get a proper out to it. But again, in that same scene, I really appreciate that Crypto wasn't able to get him out of it. So, you can have it all. Now, this one I think matters as well to the story because I wasn't necessarily sold on his connection to Ma and Pa Kent. I loved their portrayal. I love Ma and Pa Kent. I love the authenticity there that they tried to bring to the characters. I think people online are stupid for not liking it, but hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion, including myself. So this is it. While the movie's end really relies on that relationship with his mother and his father of Earth, from Earth, and I thought that it kind of they really rushed that ending of, oh, now it's all about my parents. I am the way I am because of my parents. It didn't click. It all happened too fast. There was too much going on in the movie to then go to his parents' house. Now, does that mean it doesn't work? No, it still does work. It just didn't click for me personally. I do see how it works. He has a girlfriend now. He has his established career as a journalist that takes him all over the world. He's Superman. He's just a 30-year-old dude. He's not always calling his parents and stuff like that, right? He's out of the house already. So it does make sense, but for that to have such an important role in the overall story, I felt like they were a bit underused, and I would have liked to see them a little bit more at the beginning and at the end and kind of peppered throughout. Not necessarily overdoing it either, but just more than that. Especially since the beginning of the movie was so focused on him doing everything that he does because of his Kryptonian parents. Final thoughts are, as I mentioned, I wanted this movie to be good. But walking out of it, this movie is beyond great. It is phenomenal in many, many ways. There's many layers to it. There's something for everybody to enjoy. It is a perfect blockbuster film. It is a film with heart, so it doesn't abandon story, even though it is a blockbuster film. This is right up there with the Christopher Reeve stuff. So if you haven't already, go check out Superman. Because Superman isn't only here. It is officially the beginning of the DCU. And I can't wait. Because if this is the level of storytelling and character building that we're going to get, we're in for some treats. Because this movie is a movie before it is a comic book movie. And that is what we need. So hopefully the rest of it follows suit. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I know I didn't hit everything intentionally. There's so many reviews out there. I just wanted to hit the little things that I did want to talk about. If I didn't talk about it, doesn't mean I didn't like it. It just means that I thought it was good, but, there were a lot of other elements in it to talk about and discuss in this quick little review. So please hit that comment, hit that like, subscribe, and until next time, keep it geeky. Oh, I'm a punk rocker, yes I am.